This is the Business Stuff Podcast. This is where I will share the lessons I've learned from advising thousands of businesses over almost 30 years. Each episode will give you practical insight to allow you to learn from other people's mistakes. I'll be pulling in experts from our team and the world of business, and together we'll make sure your business is giving you what you want. My name is Martin, and this is the Business Stuff Podcast. Hi, it's Marty from the Accelerator team. I'm here with Jack again. Hi Jack, how you doing?
Hello, you'll be sick of the sight of me by now.
Well, we're going to release these weekly, Jack, so they don't know we're doing them in quick succession.
Yeah, we literally just recorded the last one and we changed each other's shirts.
It's like we're mastering time here, which is handy because today we're going to talk about time mastery for small businesses.
Wow.
It sounds grand, but it's actually quite straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah, we can just break it down.
The concept's really simple. Doing it is hard. Right.
Well, yeah, if you think about it, I mean, when we speak to business owners, the one thing that always gets in the way is time. I've got time for that.
I'm going to have a meeting to talk about improving their business. Yeah.
Let alone actually improving it.
Yeah. It's a very common thing. So the topic is it's time mastery, and basically there's loads of different ways, loads of different methods, tools that people use on this, but we're going to talk about one in particular, EAD.
Keep it simple, yeah.
We're going to keep it simple. So there's three things you need to learn here, which is pretty good. So what's the first one then, Jack?
Just not to get mixed up with EDM, which electric dance music.
I'll try not to make that mistake.
Obviously, I know you're an absolute whiz on EDM.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, I love it.
Chemical Brothers and all that.
Just can't get enough. But anyway, about the time mastery.
Sorry, so when we're talking about EAD, I've got EDM on the brain now. EAD, so the first one we're talking about is eliminate. So what tasks, what processes that you currently have in your business or what you do personally are wasteful and could essentially be pared down or just completely removed. We've talked about the 7 wastes before on the podcast. I was going to say this naturally fits in here. If you can't see any waste, there will be. Totally, yeah. So
there's a separate tool, the 7 wastes, which you might be able to use here to help you identify and then eliminate those things. But a simple example might be, we've our general office is on the middle floor here. If we keep all the envelopes at the back end of one end of the building and all the stamps at another, I know we use a franking machine, but just for
we also have this thing called email as well. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I know. We still have some letters go out the door. And if every time someone had to do something, they had to then go to both ends of the building just to do a simple task.
Yeah.
That journey would be waste. And I suppose there's lots of other examples of easy things that it could be.
We've got a really good example. James isn't here today. We've obviously eliminated some waste there.
Yeah. Although we'll see if this actually makes it out.
Yeah, we'll suddenly find everything's been cut.
It's interesting when you say that, Jack, because we've managed to hopefully do this without James, but not as easily, to be fair. So you've got to be careful that you don't cut to the point where you're actually hurting productivity.
Yeah.
It's not just cut things for the hell of it.
It's because there are 2 other things you can do, even in this model, which might actually be more applicable.
Yeah.
So actually we may look at one of the other ones would be a good idea.
Possibly. So what we've done, we've talked about eliminate, we've highlighted that there's the 7 wastes, which again on over processing, repeat processing, defects,
inappropriate
journey,
processing.
I can't remember the exact terms, but so basically doing more than you have to.
Yeah.
In any scenario, more than you have to, or something unnecessary, get that eliminated.
Yeah.
And I suppose before we get into the detail on the next 2 as well, Jack, who should be doing this exercise? Because we never talked about that. Because we're doing something similar internal at the moment, and we've asked everybody, haven't we? We've kind of got an amnesty on honesty. Like, just if you think we're doing something that's a waste, let us know.
Absolutely, because there's an element of obviously the leadership team are meant to drive this sort of initiative. However, they're so far removed from the processes. Well, in reality, they should be, because they're focusing on the high level strategic stuff.
Yeah.
So therefore, they can't meaningfully input into how efficient are we in doing the nuts and bolts of the business, because they're not doing it. So that's why they need the buy-in from people, and they need that honesty, that openness. So people can go, actually, you know what, I'm wasting 20% of my time here doing this, when if we do it this way, I reckon we can do it quicker.
Yeah.
So it's, and also there's an element of leadership that they're the ones that crafted those processes to start off with. So there may be an element of defensiveness as well. So they're like, well, this is perfect. This is how I used to do it.
For 70 years, why would we change that?
Exactly, yeah. When I was a lad, this is how...
we've got email now.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's really important that you get that kind of cross-collaboration across the entire business.
Yeah.
And also when we're talking about small businesses, like there's generally not that many people in it.
Yeah.
So, but even then, you still want that 360 feedback.
All it takes here, though, is one person to be the sole kind of owner of a task, and then if they're not included, that task is not included in this exercise, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you might go, we'll just ask, you might have 3 or 4 levels of hierarchy, or we'll just ask the top 2 sections, that just the senior people, or
yeah.
And as soon as you do that, you run the risk of, missing opportunity, don't you?
Yeah, again, because there's an element of self-interest, there's an element of defensiveness where the management level are also going to be like, yeah, we're as efficient as we can be, because they'll see it reflects badly on them if the people below them aren't doing their work efficiently.
Yeah.
Because it's like, how did we get to this point where...
How are you managing a team where there was 10 people wasting half a day every... Yeah. Sorry.
So that's why you need that, again, and the managers need to on board in the sense of like, well, maybe this isn't a personal attack on me and my management style, it's more a case of, we just needed to reset a little bit in terms of where we're meant to, what is possible, what the expectations are, in a working week.
Do you think arrogance comes in here as well, Jack? That protection of your own interest, but it's like, but I designed that process, so it must be good.
Yeah.
Is there an element of that?
I think so, or an element of complacency again, where you take your eye off the ball in the sense of what's coming down the line in the future, what's possible, what technology allows you to do, and you just kind of rest on your laurels and go, we absolutely smashed it.
Yeah.
We found the answer out 10 years ago and it's still working.
Because Henry Ford didn't perfect the production line. It's continuously being adapted all the time, which is where the kind of the 7 wastes come from, really.
Exactly, yeah. So Toyota and their concept of Kaizen, which is always looking at small incremental...
all the time, forever, never stop.
And that involves everyone in their teams on the production line, meeting up once a week, once a fortnight, and going, right, what have you spotted in this week, or since the last time we met, which we could potentially look at improving. Yeah. And people are empowered, even the most junior person on the line, like if they spot something, like great, well, how are we going to roll this out? And they're empowered to go out and try and find that solution. It's incredible.
I remember from years ago there was an example of something kind of similar to this, and I presume it would come to eliminate. It was a factory worker in a huge factory, and they were trying to find ways to save money, cut costs, and he kind of just came up with a very simple idea. There was hundreds of these lights across the ceiling of this factory, and he kind of went, I think you could remove half of those bulbs and it would make no difference. They were like 50 foot off the ground, and they were so close. And they kind of went, well, we'll give it a go. And they just, they got someone on a crane or whatever they did and just took the bulbs out, made no difference at all, but saved a fortune in electricity, That came from just someone who sat there and wondered. Yeah. And it was only because they were asked that then came out,
Mm-hmm. But again, the directors wouldn't have necessarily noticed that or seen that, because they shouldn't be spending that much time in the warehouse to start off with.
Just drifting, Yeah. So we talked about eliminate, we talked about who should do it. It's kind of everyone to some degree, and all the time, continuously. So EAD, what's the next one then, Jack?
A stands for automate.
Automate.
So again, this is maybe a slight evolution on from eliminate, in the sense of you can look at potential technology out there that can literally do very repetitive tasks for you. Yeah. So the idea of, there's a huge amount of that coming down the line in our industry in terms of accountancy. Yeah. And it's amazing, and potentially we could be seeing in 20 years' time the idea of a bookkeeper or the role of a bookkeeper being fundamentally different to what it is now. Like the data input.
It already is from, say, 10, 15 years ago, isn't it? Yeah. So I quite often say to businesses when I meet them for the first time, if you're still writing your books up the way you did even 5 years ago, you've probably missed out on something.
Well, the fact that you said the word "right" up there suggests that.
Well, yeah, it's just the raw figure of speech.
If it involves a pen, then
I still record things off the TV. I still tape things off the TV as well, Jack. Don't worry. Yeah. I still tape the charts on a Sunday night. some areas move really fast, and it's quite hard because if you're a business, for instance, and you're making tables, you can have the most unbelievable process for knocking the tables out, but you've got to look at the non-core deliverable as well, haven't you? Like, well, your bookkeeping, your social media posts. Why have someone just sitting manually doing them all day? Why not automate them across the week? With
Absolutely.
your, on accountancy, instead of typing invoices in, why aren't you just taking a picture
and they'll do it for you?
And it does it, yeah. And people sometimes when they look at this think it's like black magic, but this is what your competitors are doing, and this is why they're ahead of you, or possibly they're willing to accept those changes.
Yeah, I mean, I think Zapier is probably for small businesses, it's probably been one of the biggest revolutionary things that's come out in the past 5 years.
You mean Zapier?
Yeah. Well, sorry, it depends where you went to school, Martin.
Well, the thing they do is they zap things, so I'm going to call it Zapier.
Oh, well, one says Zape.
So people might not know what Zapier is, but it's basically a product that will link together loads of other things, isn't it? So you can set it up so if you get an email into your email account in your inbox from Jack Spoor, you can get it to flash a light above your desk if you want, which is a silly example, but you could say, oh well, auto reply just to Jack. Your out of office assistant is like a micro version of what it's able to do, but across multiple platforms, isn't it?
Yeah,
and it's fantastic.
Essentially, there's different trigger points, and that trigger will then you can work out a response to that, and it can be involved across multiple different platforms.
So you have a trigger in one place and an action that you want to happen in the other. So email comes in Outlook, the action is add them to a mailing list in MailChimp. Yeah,
and suddenly now your communication system, your email system is now linked with your CRM system, which historically has always been a manual task, which
someone's sitting
and it's prone to human error.
Never getting round to it.
Yeah, because you may have someone comes in part-time to maybe do that stuff for you, and if there's 25 emails that have come in a week and it's just like, oh, well, that one, then you may have accidentally opened that one and then they don't realise that still needs to go on.
All of that, yeah. But also you can automate a lot of other areas. So, we now use a portal to deliver a lot of the work we do to clients. It's kind of an automation because on our end we can now produce the return and it gets automatically dropped into the portal, the right portal for the right client. Compare that to what we still do for some clients, but less and less now. You've got to print it out, print the letter, sign the letter, put it in the envelope, post it, all of that. You're still doing the same thing. You're still delivering a document to someone for signature, but you're just cutting out so much time and energy.
Again, more waste.
Yeah.
I mean, another thing just on this that's different from Zapier is the concept of bots. I think bots have got a very bad reputation on social media, but there are...
That's what my eldest calls me youngest.
Bot.
Calls him a bot.
Bless.
Presumably a different type of bot, but anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, I was on a demo last week, I think, in terms of bookkeeping bots, and now there's the technology out there to physically, but for you to basically have a bot on your desktop that will do the bookkeeping for you. So
this
again,
is a software bot, isn't it?
Yeah, software.
This isn't a little.
Yeah, sorry, there isn't an actual
little robot.
Yeah, there isn't a metal person sat at your desk typing away.
Yeah.
But they are essentially on your desktop though, so that like the mouse is moving around, buttons are being clicked, and it's using the intelligence that's programmed into the bot that can essentially recognise logic and then enact on it. And essentially, it's what the person said on the actual demo itself is like, well, if you can explain it to my team or me, then I can program the bot to do that. So although it's been definitely sold as a bookkeeping bot, but it can be used for like an onboarding process.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting. Sorry, go on.
It'll go through a sequence of things. It will go to it'll even use go to file, new client,
use menus, and
then it'll click on that box, type in the first name, second name, etc., and it'll basically do all of that heavy lifting. It's
handy if there isn't a zap through something like Zapier. It's handy if there isn't an API, a plug-in to do it. You don't need a plug-in. You can just write your own process. Yeah. So actually, if you presume, and you might go, well, who's got time to do all of that? But if you're paying someone to sit and do that manually, you've got to show them how to do it.
Yeah.
But at least the bot won't forget.
Definitely, it will do it there and then. Like,
yeah.
you just have to press play and it will just keep going.
And I'm not saying to get rid of people here, because to be honest, I'm very conscious that when we're doing this, it might be that, well, actually, we're just getting rid of people's jobs here. But actually, I think the third one is quite an interesting one that gives those people something to do instead. So it's okay. Can we move on to the third one then?
Yeah, but before we quickly do, as I said about the bookkeepers, I deliberately didn't say bookkeepers will be obsolete.
They'll do something different.
The role will evolve, so it will be a case of this technology is not going to be perfect, and it probably never will be. There'll always be slight errors in it, even if it's a 0.0001, but you still need someone checking that information. Yeah. And then it becomes a case of interpreting that information now, rather than actually inputting it. It's like, well, what does this information actually mean? Because
in that bookkeeping example, let's just say 10% of businesses have a bookkeeper at the moment. I don't know what the percentage is. Mm-hmm. But if all of a sudden bookkeepers can look after more businesses, that will almost democratise access to that data, won't it? And that resource. So more people will have access to that. And we've seen that already with, scheduling tools on social media. Even the smallest business now can have really good regular content put out because the business owners just sat and wrote them all, in an hour on Sunday night.
Yeah.
And they can give the impression that they're a much bigger business because they've got access to tools that previously you'd have to pay someone to literally sit and type all day to do those things.
And it's got the benefit of being authentic.
And it's written in your own voice, which is another thing. But yeah, so, it's not that you're getting rid of people. And, these kind of conversations always remind me about, the Luddites smashing, looms and all that kind of stuff back in the day. Before your time, Jack. And my time.
I was about to say, clearly not before your time.
Yeah, clearly before our time. And, and the idea was, well, what the hell are we going to do? Well, they did other things. And I didn't realise I'm saying that quite bluntly, but they did something else. Like, there's always something to do. You just do something else. And people seem to willingly embrace the fact that most of the jobs kids at school will do now don't even exist yet. But somehow they also cling to the idea that, but as long as my job's still there, it might not be. You might have to do something else.
I was at a conference back in June, which, bearing in mind we're in July, makes it sound like it was a lot longer than it was.
A couple of weeks ago.
A few weeks ago. And there was a futurist speaking at a keynote, and I think the stat he said to me is that future technology will wipe 1 trillion worth of GDP off the world economy, but will add 26 trillion.
Yeah.
So again, people obsess over that small number and go, oh my God, I haven't got a job. But actually,
hope that's not my job.
Yeah, but actually, how about you look at the bigger number in terms of what it's going to create?
Yeah.
And what do I need to get on board with that?
The simplest way I've came up with saying this is I was talking the other day about AI and ChatGPT, and we keep hearing, we won't need programmers, we won't need content writers, we just won't need these people. But through Wikipedia, even if you go back Encyclopedia Britannica, there's always been access to data, but yet everyone isn't smart. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like, just because ChatGPT can do loads of great things, doesn't mean everyone's going to just go to ChatGPT instead of going to a programmer to write something.
And somebody...
They just won't. It's just not going to happen.
And as somebody who's used ChatGPT quite a lot, it's not as straightforward or simple as you'd like to think in terms of getting the right answer.
No.
So there's a skill in actually teaching.
It's not like Knight Rider, is it?
Well, no. Well, again, that's assuming it's
just say, "Kit, take me to work." It's not quite as simple as that.
I am familiar with Knight Rider, but I think it was a bit beyond my years.
Oh. I better be careful on my cultural references then, right? So
David Hasselhoff, he was in it.
Yeah. So I did say we've eliminated tasks, we've automated tasks. What the hell are people going to do? Well, the D here is quite an interesting one, I think.
So it's the delegation side of things.
And in my mind here, what I'm thinking is, if you've got, often the easier tasks, the lower level tasks will be the ones that can be eliminated because they're not having a big impact, or can be automated because they're often more simple. But also what you tend to have is, the business owner just guards every task that is remotely not menial, And they should use the free time they've just created below them to just pass work down, shouldn't they?
Yeah. I mean, I'm maybe putting some pressure on James here in terms of how he orders these podcasts, but the last one we did yesterday or the day before, doesn't really matter. But in terms of that was a huge part of that, and we talked a little bit around the kind of psychology of a business owner, and generally at the point where you're in a position where you've delegated is coming from a point where you've spent a lot of time in the business by yourself, building up your reputation.
Yeah.
So again, that really factors in, and there's a psychological barrier, as you said, to actually physically delegating, because again, that controlling side of you is like, well, I want this to be done right. So if I can guarantee it's done right if I do it myself.
I think there's also, just even on a simple basis as well, if you're doing a job with a customer or a client who then says, thanks, that was great, you maybe don't want to give up that part, you want to be the one who gets the credit, not in an attention-seeking kind of bad way, but it's just nice to get recognition for doing something, isn't it? So if you're the one who answers the phone and does all the quotes and sees all the customers, it's a nice thing to build that rapport up with someone, and you don't often want to give it up, but that's a problem, because the bigger you get, you can't know every client's name, every customer's name, and you shouldn't.
Yeah.
But I wonder if people just like to be involved in that,
And guess what? Like, as the business grows and matures, and obviously you've been in the business for a while, the plan will eventually that you
since
want
the loom, yes.
You want to have some kind of exit strategy. And guess, like, the more you get entrenched in that side of the business, the more you become, the business recognises you as, your customers recognise you as synonymous with the business, means that process at the point of exit virtually becomes impossible, because
much harder.
They'll be like, well, I want you to do it. I don't want him to do it. I don't want that person to do it. I don't care what you say is amazing. This is the first time I met him. Yeah. And it's like, well,
delegate as much as possible, as soon as possible.
He's been working for me for 20 years. It's like, well, I've never seen him before.
Yeah, well,
you've done all of that stuff.
He's done all of your work for 20 years, has he? Well, why have you never introduced me then?
Yeah.
How do I not know that?
Exactly.
So, right, okay, then, Jack, I think you've got a quiz for us.
Yeah, well, I just want to check that you occasionally listen to me when I'm talking about this.
So, I got a blacked out version of this.
Yeah, so it's all been redacted. It's
also blacked out at the front end as well. Thanks, Jack.
So that means you can't read any of the notes whatsoever.
I had to use AI to fill the blanks.
Yeah, I was saying that I didn't do a very good job of filling it in. I'm pretty sure you can see the answers anyway. But
I figured out what you were doing, so I didn't cheat.
Well, that's good. So we've got 6 questions here.
Let's do it.
And the answer is either going to be to eliminate, to delegate, or to automate.
Can there be an exterminate if a joke presents itself?
I'm sure I wouldn't have any control over that anyway, would I? Even if I said no. So, question 1. When you have redundant tasks that don't add value to your business, what principles should you apply?
I would eliminate those tasks.
I would definitely say that.
The clue's in redundant, they're not doing anything other.
We're starting easy for you. Saying that, I don't know how much more difficult they get than that. If you're spending too much time sending repetitive emails to your clients, what should you do?
I would automate a repetitive task.
So, again, maybe using Zapier?
Or create a template. So we're busy doing this at the moment. We've created a new process internally where James has to do quite a lot of the same thing. And there's enough of it that's the same that we're now going to basically create a template. So you can then just, and people use this all the time. They've got a standard letter, they've got things. So, it's just a version of that, isn't it?
Absolutely. James is
even better if you can get it to send itself at the right time.
Yeah.
But even if you can't get that far, which we can't on this one for reasons I'll not bore you with, but we're going to manually prompt the action, but more of the action will then be automated, if that makes sense. And
similarly, like, I think a lot of people can use that for quotes as well. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there, more than we care to admit, that will use basically set up a new Word document every time they want to send a quote, and it's just like, but if if you're a builder, building an extension, you don't type out the process of digging your founds out every time. I would hope. No. You've got the paragraph from the last time, and you change the price, and you just make sure that it still fits this job. Yeah. You've got to be careful on that. But most people are aware of the reusing things they've already done. Don't put the old address in for the other house.
Dear Betty, number 24. Who's that?
My name's Dave. Question 3. You're a small business owner who is who is great at strategic planning but weak in bookkeeping. What can be the solution?
Exterminate. You said we're getting rid of bookkeepers, didn't you?
Yep, yes, that's exactly what I said.
I shoehorned the joke in. I would delegate that.
Yes.
I would find someone to do the bookkeeping, and I would.
Do you know any good bookkeepers or not?
I'm sure I could. With time, I could dig some out.
Dig what out the ground from where I've exterminated.
Yeah, we've exterminated them. They're gone. They're gone.
All right, question 4. Your small retail business is overwhelmed with a manual process of tracking inventory. What should you do to resolve this?
I would automate that.
Yeah.
And get some kind of point of sale or electronic point of sale, EPOS, something like that.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Absolutely.
So that updates the inventory when I sell something or when I get a delivery, it update, yeah.
And if you have your inventory linked with that, then you can even get little prompts when you're running low on stock as well.
Yeah.
So it can
exterminate the stockkeeper as well.
The stockkeeper.
If keeper is in your name, you're going to get exterminated.
Right, question 5. You realise you're spending a lot of time on a low impact activity that doesn't directly contribute to your business growth. What is your best move?
Ooh. I don't know if it's necessary or not there, but I would either eliminate it or I would delegate it.
I've got eliminated down, but you're right. I think there's quite a lot. There's even probably some solutions where all 3 of them are applicable, where you've probably got a big chunky process. There's an element of eliminating it.
Yeah.
There's probably parts of it you can automate, and then the rest hopefully you can delegate.
Actually, this brings a good point, Jack. There was, I think it was an interview with Elon Musk 8 years ago, and I'm sure they said, all right, we're going to start building rockets. Right, where do you buy rockets from? Well, this is where you buy rockets from.
Asda.
Yeah, Asda sometimes stock, only the big ones though.
All right, okay.
The big one in Bolden's got a good selection. So the idea was, well, we can buy the rockets from there, but actually the rocket is the end of another process of building a rocket. The engine, the booster. So don't just assume that it's a complete thing and it can't be broken down. So what he did, he said, well, let's just see how we build them instead, because then we've got control over which parts of it we do and which way, and you can dig out your own efficiencies there. So it's interesting what you've said there. You might have a big task. We might say send a tax return to a client, well, we have to do that, so we can't look at that process. No. There's about 30 steps involved in sending a tax return to a client.
Up to the point of getting the information in all the way to sending it out.
Each one of those steps is the thing you look at here, not whether you still need to do the overall output. And I think people can get lost behind that.
And it's a lot of stuff we've done internally around that, in terms of, because you're right, it's a big process. So if you go to a team and go, right, we want to find efficiencies in this process, they're like, well, you can't. All right. Okay, well, let's start.
We have to send bills out. Yeah. We have to do that.
Yeah,
but you have to do it that way.
So let's start at step 1, right? Yeah. What is the very first point of contact? And then just work your way down. And it's like, well, where's the element of waste here? Well, we have to wait quite a lot of time between this step and this step. Well,
okay, well, how do we about that time? Yeah.
Well, I suppose we can chase them up a little bit more. Right, okay. And then that's, again, conversations around like, well, can we put some automation?
How are we chasing them?
Yeah.
Can we automate the chaser? Yeah.
Can we delegate that to someone else?
That's a good question, Anton. Have you got a pen?
There you are. My invoice is in the post. Last question.
Exterminate.
As a business owner, you're feeling overwhelmed with managing your social media accounts and creating regular content. What could be an effective way of handling this?
Again, I think we could automate or delegate that, depending on what you need from it. But
we've got delegate down, but I would definitely agree that there's definitely some automation you can do there.
Because the overwhelm might come from thinking you've got to do something every 3 hours on 6 different channels, whereas instead you might say, well, I've actually got an hour once a week, I'll then do that and I'll automate it from there. So
I think the scheduling tool is really interesting, because a lot of people think, I've got to do it in real time. That means I've got to carve out a time
to interrupt what I'm doing
at a busy time where I'm going to get the most impact. So I think it's different times depending on different days of the week, but like 10 o'clock on a Tuesday, for example, where prime working time, I've got to go and take half an hour out to
Monday 9:30 if you're advertising a job. That's when everyone's looking for jobs, I would imagine.
Is it really?
I've no idea. I've looked for a job for a long time.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would have you either.
Yeah, I never find any adverts, so people are hiding them.
Yeah, just the opposite of like sort of cookies and all of that. They seem to send them away from you. You've got anti-cookies.
I've been blocked from blocked.
Read and all of that lot. Just like
I don't even know what I would do, Jack. Anyway, how did I do on the quiz?
You did well, but not that I'm accusing you of cheating. But
did I get the job? That's what I want to know.
Yes, you're now a full-time bookkeeper exterminator.
Excellent. Line them up and I'll knock them out.
The remuneration package will be discussed in due course.
Perfect. Thank you very much, sir. I look forward to joining the team.
Excellent.
So yeah, I mean, what have we done then? We've talked about the wastes at the start to then eliminate and automate, and then I think delegate probably isn't a waste. That's probably inappropriate processing, isn't it? The wrong person doing
the director doing something.
A job that needs done, being done in the wrong place. So actually, the wastes and this go pretty much hand in hand, I think, don't they?
And it even requires a recruitment conversation. Like, I can't afford to bring someone else in, but like, well, maybe you can use something like a virtual assistant, personal assistant, something like that. Because
delegate doesn't have to be expensive. You can get virtual assistants who'll charge by the hour. You might only need 3 hours. Or just buy 3 hours. You haven't got to bite the bullet and take a full person on for a small task. There's loads of people out there who are quite happy to do the small bits of the thing you don't want to do.
Definitely, yeah. And I suppose the main takeaway from this is like, it's very overwhelming to talk about waste in a very generic term, because you're like, well, how do I even go about this? Hopefully this provides a very basic tool or simple tool for you
to framework to use.
To attack areas of waste within your business and try to win some time back for yourself.
Especially if you ask your team. I would, depending on what kind of person you are, I would imagine if most people said, I want full honesty and no one's getting in trouble here, but where is the waste in this business? Yeah. You'll get some great ideas. So if you've got no idea how to do it, just ask the people around you.
Definitely, yeah.
They will definitely have some ideas of stuff that's a waste of time.
I don't know about you, but with this timesheet thing we're doing at the moment, this amnesty, I think it's been very illuminating for me in terms of where I've never been particularly good at tracking it. I'm always going back retrospectively and working it out, but then actually recording it in real time, you realise, oh wow, that 5-minute break I thought I took actually was, or that 5-minute chat I had with someone actually was 25 minutes long. Oh wow, I didn't realise.
Or the work that you thought took 5 minutes actually took 25 minutes. Yeah. It goes both ways, doesn't it?
Definitely.
I'm finding that I'm slightly more productive than I thought I was. I'm not doing any more, just for clarity. So we're doing a timekeeping exercise where we're asking people to look at exactly this for waste, for other purposes. And it's quite interesting. You're getting some really good feedback from the team, actually.
What, so you 6% chargeable now, or
I'm
instead of 5?
Up to about 7 now and then. I identified 12 minutes on Monday that I missed.
Bloody hell, we'll be in line for a bonus then, surely.
Well, I might not be exterminated, let's put it that way. Listen, thanks very much, Jack, that was great. So that was EAD and that was time mastery. I hope you enjoyed that. We certainly had good fun chatting about it.
We did, yeah.
It'd be great to find out what things you identify within your business that can go into each of those categories. And as a starter, write down one in each category. Straight away, if you're listening now, write down one from each, start working there. Next week, do another. And, it doesn't have to take long, it doesn't have to be a big exercise.
Not at all, no.
Thanks very much. See you all next time.